Kia ora, everybody. Thanks for joining us. We're just going to start with a quick karakia. Me karakia tātou. Tū taua mai e runga, tū taua mai I raro, tū taua mai e waho, tū taua mai e rato, kia tau ai te Māori tū, te Māori ora, ki te katoa, humi e, hui e, taiki e. Tēnā koutou katoa, ko Stephanie Verco toko ingoa, ko hau te Impact and Investment Lead at Sustainable Business Network. So welcome everyone, it's lovely to have you here today for the online launch of SBN's Regenerate Nature program and the publication of our associated report, Regenerating Nature in Aotearoa New Zealand, the transformative role of business. This program of work aims to dramatically accelerate and scale up action for nature in Aotearoa. The report details the current state of play of business and nature and identifies barriers to taking action as well as opportunities. So that's what you're going to hear about from today. But before we get going, I just thought I would mention a few things around Zoom protocol. We will be recording this session and we'll send it out along with a copy of the report so you can all read it and share with your colleagues. And there will be a short Q&A at the end of the webinar. So please feel free to pop any of your questions into the Q&A function. And it would be great if you could put your name and your organisation with your question. Along with the Q&A function, we've also got the chat function open today, just so we can get a bit of a vibe going, because these can be a bit anonymous sometimes. So we welcome you to introduce yourself in the chat function and connect as we go through the webinar today. So you'll see both of those functions pop up on your screen if you haven't already. And I thought we'd start by quickly just updating you on SBN's mission and how our nature program fits into that. Then you will hear from Sam Rowland, from SBN, discussing the insights from the report, and then from our foundation partners, MFE and Z Energy. So SBN is on a mission to accelerate Aotearoa New Zealand's transition to a regenerative, low-carbon circular economy. And we have three core project areas that we focus our work around. They are regenerating nature, climate action, and designing out waste. Our Regenerate Nature program aims to put nature at the centre of business on one hand, while also playing a very important role of coordinating funds and resources and redistributing these to people, projects and places that need them most. And after working for over 10 years in the nature space and having raised over $11 million, supported 70 plus nature projects and planted over 800,000 trees, we have identified some gaps in the system, and that is what this program and report seeks to fix. We know that we've got incredible people across Aotearoa working to restore nature, but many of you are here on the webinar, so thank you for joining us today. But their work is underfunded. Resources, skills, training is lacking, and across the board, nature projects are not connected. We've got fragmentation, and everyone seems to be competing for support to act for nature. Meanwhile, we've got nature beginning to appear on the business agenda. And with new reporting frameworks, international commitments, and national regulations already in place or coming soon. And again, there seems to be a lack of support skills, data, and information to support businesses to act for nature. This is a systems failure. And we have businesses, philanthropy, community, iwi, hapu, landowners reaching out to us and asking us for a fix. And that is what this program and report details, how we can do that. And there's hope, because our research also tells us that we have the right knowledge, the intent, the experience and initiatives to turn biodiversity loss around. But we're here today to bring in some of those insights to you, but also ask for your help. And we know that collaboration is going to be essential. And that's why we're here today. So thank you all for being here. We see you, although I actually can't see anybody right now. And we need you. You are our leaders, our change makers, our heroes on the ground, our innovators and experts, our generous funders, You're the brilliant minds that will lead to the change that we urgently need, and we would love to work with you. We want to create unprecedented collaboration and accelerate action, capability, and investment for nature. So now it's time to introduce Sam Rowland. Sam is the Program Manager for SBN's Nature Systems Change Program and the author of this amazing report. Sam comes to SBN with over a decade of experience working for DOC, where she was part of national programs, ranging from biodiversity monitoring, jobs for nature, and implementation of New Zealand's biodiversity strategy. Sam also co-chairs a conservation group called the Eastern Fio Link in her hometown of Tairāwhiti. And sometimes Sam may get to sleep, but we're not sure when that is. Over to you, Sam.
Tēnā koutou katoa, everybody. Thank you, Steph. Just going to change my slide. There we go. It's great to see so many familiar faces online today. Many of you that I can see inputted into this research and report. So I just wanted to really start by saying a huge thank you for sharing your time, insights, and energy with us. I'm going to talk today about some of the insights we found from our research and what the new Regenerate Nature program will deliver. This program is a 5-year collaboration between community, Māori, business, government, and philanthropy, and our mission is really around accelerating capability and action for nature. To create this program, insights were gathered through multiple surveys, many workshops, and one-on-one conversations. This was done with a range of people in the biodiversity system, from businesses, philanthropic organisations, government, community groups, iwi and hapu, research institutes, and environmental NGOs. And from this, we identified barriers, motivations, and enablers that business and nature projects face when regenerating nature. We analysed and consolidated this data to produce our latest report. And this report really highlights the transformative role that businesses can play in halting and reversing biodiversity loss in Aotearoa New Zealand. The first section of the report really synthesises our key findings from the research and introduces the initiatives that we'll be delivering as part of the Regenerate Nature program. The second section talks about how we have one mission, but there are many different roles. It highlights the roles of government, big business, SMEs, community, iwi hapu, and landowners, and it contains a selection of brilliant case studies from businesses and communities out there doing nature conservation. The third section outlines the business and nature relationship within a New Zealand context. It highlights the business opportunities and value from taking nature action. And it also discusses many of the relevant nature-related frameworks, policies, and regulations that are here or are coming for businesses in New Zealand. So what are some of those insights we uncovered out of the research? In the first one, we found that on-the-ground nature projects are under-resourced. This will not be a surprise for many of you on the call today. But what we also found is that 70% of businesses surveyed indicated that their investment in these projects will increase in the next 5 years. Businesses indicated that to invest in these projects, they needed trustworthy and verified on-the-ground nature projects to invest in the first place, more understanding on the value that this investment brings to their businesses, clear outcomes and data, and opportunities to connect to the people and the nature within these projects. Our second insight comes as when it comes to businesses transforming their practices to be more nature positive. We found that 82% of businesses want to do the right thing for nature, but they really lack the knowledge and time to know what nature initiatives to prioritise, implement, and support. They told us that the support they need includes things like understanding the value that taking action for nature has on their business operations, how to embed nature action into their business, They need to understand the current state and trends of biodiversity action for nature, and they want to hear examples from other businesses that have taken action for nature already. When it comes to unlocking more investment from the private sector into on-the-ground nature projects, we found that the nature sector at times is fragmented, and this is caused by the chronic lack of funding into on-the-ground nature projects. There's a real opportunity to join up national nature organisations as well as join up the on-the-ground local organisations to increase the scale and pace of investment from the private sector through that strategic and coordinated action. These projects on the ground produce wonderful outcomes for nature. They're on limited money and also limited staff time, and this causes many projects to not have enough time to coordinate with others. They're also competing for limited pools of the same funding. This fragmented action makes it harder for there to be true impact in nature regeneration. If projects had adequate funding and support, we could start to see more strategic landscape scale strategies, project efficiencies, impacts and outcomes that would increase the scale and pace of nature regeneration. And from our research, we know that this will increase business and philanthropic interest in investing in these projects. So to unlock more investment from the private sector and halt and reverse biodiversity loss, our research showed us that we can have a real impact if we work to pull together those nature entities that work for nature. This is to really create strategic and coordinated opportunities for investment. We can create opportunities for the on-the-ground nature groups to connect and share, and create opportunities for the private sector and nature sector to connect and share, breaking down some of those knowledge and information barriers we've heard that each sector has towards each other. So for us to create impact, we really do need coordinated efforts from all sectors of society. That includes business, government, philanthropy, and communities, which I can see all of you online today. Unprecedented collaboration that is really embedded in Te Ao Māori and Mātauranga Māori will be fundamental for the transformational change required. And this program is all about working together to really co-create efficient and impactful outcomes, reducing the duplication. The first phase of our initiatives in this program really pulls upon the insights that we uncovered in the research. They focus on things like raising awareness, making investing in nature easy and safe for businesses, and really enabling those strategic collaborations we need. So on to the program initiatives themselves. These first three really pull into that research we had around uncovering the barriers and knowledge to understanding of nature action and what businesses said will enable them to take nature action. The first one, a Business and Nature Symposium, is all about bringing people together to support companies to transition to a nature positive future. At this event, we will hear from big businesses, SMEs, consultancies, Māori, government and NGOs. We'll discuss how to create positive nature action in your business, case studies, policy initiatives, climate and nature targets, Te Ao Māori insights, nature-based solutions, circular economy and more. The second initiative is a Nature Essentials training program. This training course will help organisations understand how to take nature-related action in Aotearoa New Zealand. It'll cover topics such as the state of nature, why businesses should act, how to act for nature in your operations, supply chains, and through regeneration and restoration projects. The third initiative are nature cluster groups. So these are groups to link up businesses with each other and technical experts to share information on and tips on how to accelerate your capability and action for nature. Groups will be established for all levels of business action, from those just at the beginning to those that are already leading in this space. In this nature cluster groups, we'll also have community cluster groups, and they'll be established to really work together to increase private sector investment into these projects. These next two initiatives really help enable strategic and coordinated action from the nature sector. It's designed to pull in additional investment from the private sector into restoration and regeneration projects. It pulls on the data we collected around how to enable the business and philanthropic sectors to invest more. So the first one on this load is around establishing a nature alliance. And this alliance will pull together large organisations working with nature in New Zealand to collaborate and strategically increase the scale and pace of investment in nature regeneration. We're already in initial conversations between organisations such as Forest and Bird, NZ Landcare Trust, Predator Free 2050 Limited, Predator Free NZ Trust, Kiwi2, Save the Kiwi, ourselves, Trees That Count, and WWF. And as we're going out there talking to more, we're getting a lot of interest. The next initiative is a suite of high impact, investable nature projects delivered by community, iwi hapu and landowners for businesses to select for investment. This will highlight the best of New Zealand's nature projects on a platform for businesses to select their nature investments, removing the risk of uncertainties for businesses when it comes to knowing what a good project is to invest in. At the same time, a rating system will be co-developed by business, technical experts, and on-the-ground practitioners. It'll rate each project's ability to meet criteria such as national biodiversity priorities, biodiversity, social, cultural outcomes, climate targets, and more. Businesses can use a system to align nature projects to their priorities, and they will know that they're choosing a safe investment that aligns with their strategic direction. The final two initiatives help to raise awareness, deepen understanding, and lock in standards for the private sector. We heard a lot about impacts, metrics, and tools out there in our surveys and our discussions. And this is really around co-creating and elevating metrics and impact stats to build confidence in private sector nature action. It's also around developing or elevating tools to enable business to identify data to inform their nature investment. And lastly, we will lead a strategic communications campaign across all channels. And this is really to elevate the role of private sector in nature action. This will help raise awareness of the nature crisis and the role that businesses can play in this, then provide pathways forward for action. All of these initiatives will be co-developed, and we are not about the duplication. So we want to work together and really elevate others' work where we're best placed to do so. I just want to end by saying a huge thank you to our foundation partners, Ministry for the Environment and Z Energy. We have all worked together to co-create the strategic direction for this program, each bringing forward our role that we have in the biodiversity system. At SBN, we know that if we can stand shoulder to shoulder and collaborate, we can really accelerate capability and action for nature. We're now moving into implementation, and we want to work with as many organisations as we can to progress this work. So please reach out to me if you see alignment with your work, or you can see how this work can support you, or just want to talk about anything further. My last point is just around the report. So I only had 10 minutes. I would love to talk about this all day. The report contains a bunch more information and detail around what we've found and what we're doing. Ngā mihi nui, thank you so much for listening, and Steph, I'll pass back to you.
Kia ora, Sam. Thank you so much. Amazing, amazing work. There are some excellent initiatives in there that you will all see that will really help us shift the dial for nature regeneration in Aotearoa. And I think that where SBN sits, we're in a perfect role here to be able to play that role of bringing people together and collaborating and brokering the right people to come and get around the table to help solve some of these problems. As Sam said, we are looking for more partners. As a partner, you do get to sit on the governance board of the program and help inform the program's strategic direction. And the funding that we need now is to start implementing these 7 key initiatives. So yeah, please reach out if nature is on your business agenda. We would love to hear from you. Next up, I'd like to introduce Anna Riranui from Ministry for the Environment. She's Manager of Strategic Partnerships. Anna manages the team tasked with accelerating environmental system change by working with the private sector and other actors in the system. So it's incredible to have had her input into this program to date. And welcome, Anna.
Kia ora, Steph, and kia ora koutou. It's great to see everyone here. We'll see the names ticking through. As Steph said, ko Anna Riranui aho. I manage the Strategic Partnerships team at Manatū Mō Te Taio, Ministry for the Environment. And as noted, the Ministry is a foundational partner of this Regenerate Nature program alongside Z Energy. Our partnership with the Sustainable Business Network stems from our closely aligned values. And it's really great today to get to the milestone of being able to deep dive into the opportunities for business to support Te Taio. We've seen a raft of examples of community and business action to support nature, lower emissions, and make progress in transitioning New Zealand to a low emissions circular economy. We know there's action happening out there. Some is just starting off, some's well developed, and there's everything in between. But we also know there is room for improvement in how it's all connected up. And by leveraging all this work, we can make it easier to access, easier to track progress, easier to share the story. So we've been working closely as program partners to help shape the strategic direction of the Regenerate Nature program by connecting SBN with other nature-focused organisations and programs, and importantly, by ensuring the direction of SBN's work in this program aligns with relevant policy work. If you flick through to the next slide, I think there, please, yeah, thank you. So there are many government policies, regulations and initiatives which support action for nature. You may know some of these, and much more information can be found on the Ministry's website or in the report that the SBN team has just released. But I'm going to touch on some of those just very briefly. These include Te Mana o Te Taio, Aotearoa New Zealand Biodiversity Strategy, the Jobs for Nature program, as well as the recently announced National Policy Statement on Indigenous Biodiversity. There's also the Resource Management Act reform, which, amongst other things, will look at how nature can be protected and enhanced in urban environments. And alongside this, there's a lot of ongoing policy work being developed around the targets that we need to achieve to meet New Zealand's commitments on climate change, both locally and globally. These include the Emissions Reduction Plan, the National Adaptation Plan, and the Aotearoa New Zealand Waste Strategy. SBN's Regenerate Nature program and report takes all of that framing, including international direction, and delivers ideas for practical steps to help businesses, funders, and communities take action. The report highlights the need for mighty collaboration, aligning and not duplicating efforts. It identifies actions that can be taken to build skills, leverage opportunities, and deliver positive outcomes across all sectors, including business, government, iwi, hapu, and communities. We look forward to contributing to the next phases of the program as it moves into implementation. Ngā mihi, thanks for involving MFE in this.
Kia ora, Anna. Thank you so much for coming along today and sharing that with us. And also thank you for all your support. It's been great working with you to date. As Anna has stated, nature is a key part of our economy, and that's why a key focus of this program is recognising that every business, no matter how big or how small, has a reliance on nature. In fact, just the other day, Sam was telling me that the dog groomer in Tairāwhiti had to close because they didn't have access to fresh water after the cyclone. So it's not just our primary industries needing healthy soils and pollinating services and healthy forests and to survive. It's everyone down to our dog groomers. And of course, in Aotearoa, our tourism sector is centred around our clean green image. So there's a lot of value in this work. And our report has shown us, which is great, that there is an appetite from business to start investing in nature and the benefits from doing so. By recognising and valuing nature's contribution, businesses can ensure a long-term sustainability. There's opportunities to reduce risks, enhance brand reputation, and unlock some really great new opportunities for innovation and growth. And so next up, we've got Abby Bull to speak from a business perspective. Abby is an environment and sustainability professional, an outdoors adventure seeker, and I love this, a mountain bike coach. But she is also Head of Sustainability and Community for Z Energy. Z is another one of our wonderful key partners, so welcome, Abby.
Thanks, Steph. Tēnā koutou katoa, ko Aotearoa toitutanga hapori ki Z Energy, kei poneki takutare, ko Abby toka wengoa. I'm Abby and I'm Head of Sustainability and Community at Z Energy, dialing in from sunny Wellington. Zed's really proud to be partnering with the Sustainable Business Network as both a funder of on the ground projects, but also as a funder and thought leader to this important systems change work. There's often a bias for corporates wanting to fund the sort of immediate, tangible, bright and shiny impacts, but I just wanted to call out the importance of funding some of the longer term thinking and collaboration opportunities, as some of the solutions just don't exist yet and we need to invest in that. Our involvement in the Nature Regeneration program actually came about from our own internal assessments and our frustrations with the limitations of current policy frameworks, incentives and tools that are available or not available to better integrate outcomes for nature through our response to climate change. As we were developing our strategy, we were having conversations with like-minded people and organisations. So we naturally gravitated towards working with partners who were most aligned with this aspiration around systems change. Next slide. So I am here to talk about biodiversity, but I first just wanted to touch on how that links to our business strategy because it's a really important connection to understand. So Z is New Zealand's largest fuel retailer with an international supply chain. We have infrastructure and assets spread nationwide with just under 200 retail sites and 7 terminals throughout the country. We have a unique emissions profile. About 99% of our carbon footprint comes from what's termed Scope 3 emissions. So that's the indirect emissions that occur across our value chain. 85% of that is generated from the use of sold fuel in New Zealand, and that's both to individual and commercial customers. So in financial 23, that was about 9 million tonnes of CO2, so it's a significant carbon footprint. For Z to reduce its carbon footprint, we need to enable Aotearoa's transition to low carbon transport, so not just our own. This means being really transparent about our impact, being really upfront about that, advocating for greater climate action with other business leaders and government, and offering customers low carbon alternatives that they actually want to buy. So some examples of what that looks like, just to make it real for you. So building EV charging infrastructure at our retail sites, leveraging our investment in retail electricity company Flick to provide customers with charging and energy needs in the home, and supplying hard to abate sectors such as aviation with alternative fuels. And also that really important piece around collaborating with other businesses, so supporting the collective ambition through collaboration like the Climate Leaders Coalition. So next slide. So while the shifts towards decarbonisation that we're beginning to see in transport are really positive and can't happen soon enough, we also recognise that unless you consider the impacts of nature in redesigning the economy, you may actually exacerbate existing pressures on our environment. And you're kind of losing sight of the main reason that climate action matters in the first place. So we decided to establish our own nature investment fund. So that's a $1 million per annum commitment. We could have simply just invested a bunch of money in local planting projects and left it at that. But as one of the larger corporates in New Zealand, and one that has significant reach and influence, we felt that we had an obligation to go further. So we wanted our investment to address and highlight some of the system failures that we're seeing, and to be able to invest in initiatives that may act as a catalyst for more impactful action, and to talk openly about our approach, how that connects to our business strategy and our climate impact, so that we might encourage other businesses to join us. So the focus of our investment is in three main areas: innovation to accelerate nature restoration, improving the financial incentives for restoration of important ecosystems that are most vulnerable to climate change, and restoration projects that deliver co-benefits such as education, training, and employment opportunities to support that equitable transition piece to a low carbon future. So we now work with three amazing partners delivering projects in service of this criteria. So our three partners: Trees That Count, who are conducting a research trial on seed islands as a planting approach to enable large-scale projects to be restored more cost effectively. The Nature Conservancy, so part funding their blue carbon pilot, which will be aims to bring verified carbon credits derived from salt marsh restoration to the voluntary carbon market. And finally, with the Sustainable Business Network, so contributing to the Pahanui stream restoration and to this nature systems change program. So just talking briefly to the Pahanui Regeneration project, we found this particularly compelling in that it was close to our bulk fuel terminal in Wiri. It was urban focused and focused on social and cultural co-benefits of nature restoration. It's focused on creating meaningful employment and nature-based career pathways. So it's an incredible example of where investment in nature beautifully integrates social, cultural, and climate resilient outcomes. You're improving freshwater, restoring stream health, enhancing biodiversity and amenity in a catchment that has been heavily degraded. What's more, when you listen to the stories from the rangatahi involved in the Regeneration project, you get a true understanding of how healing the land is also healing the people. So my takeaways for other businesses: understand your own impact. That's the direct and the indirect connections to nature. And even if you can't quantify it, so we're not at a point yet of being able to quantify, and we haven't started our journey yet on nature-related disclosures, but there is enough science to understand the pressures that are causing biodiversity loss and to take some action. Take a systems strategic view and do what's most meaningful to your business and your staff. It's okay to just start where you're at. I think the buy-in really snowballs. So we got initial support for the Nature Fund through an evidence-based rationale, but we've also secured further ongoing support through the engagement that has actually happened since the project's kicked off. So just, yeah, thanks so much to SBN for this comprehensive assessment, this really insightful report, and to everyone who may also be on this call who's contributed their time and insights. We can achieve so much more by working together. So thanks.
Kia ora, Abby. That was amazing. And thank you so much for the plug for the Pahanui. We're also looking for funding and partnership in that. So if anyone would like to support that project, please reach out. So as Abby mentioned there, we've heard a lot about nature today, but we're also talking about climate and community. We know that nature and climate are intrinsically linked. How our healthy native ecosystems will help remove and store carbon, they'll help prevent flooding and erosion, absorb heat, etc. But it's also the co-benefits go beyond there. You know, there's amazing positive outcomes for our own health, our own happiness. For me personally, I'm looking forward to some of that when I get to stand on the top of Mount Ruapehu this weekend. Plus the community and economic well-being and resilience benefits. They can't be underestimated. So now more than ever, nature must be part of all decision-making, including financial, economic, political, and business decisions. It really is time that we get serious about urgently regenerating nature. So thank you, everybody, for being here today. Thank you for your support. And more than anything, thank you for caring about nature. So that's us wrapped up the webinar. I'll jump into the Q&A now and see if there are any questions there. Doesn't look like we've got, here's one. It was mentioned that 70% of business surveys plan to increase their investment in nature in the next few years. Sam, can you perhaps jump on and ask who those were they SBN members, etc.?
Kia ora, Inga. So it was sent out to our wider network at SBN, so not just SBN members, but our wider network. Thanks, Steph. Oh, sorry, you're muted there, Steph.
Yes, that's not useful. This is from Anonymous. Just asking if the Puanui Regeneration project involved paid training. Yes, that's the main part of where our funding goes. Well, the seed funding helped to establish the project and set up nurseries and partnerships, but now most of the funding goes into training and salaries. And that's what most of the funding is required, and a lot of the project work is rather than just relying on volunteers. I think we need to be ensuring that we're paying people to do this work into the future. Any other questions? Sam, maybe you would like to answer this one. How might we work alongside biodiversity credits, or maybe Anna, and how the government is undertaking work on this currently?
I'll start and then I'll hand over to Anna to also talk about this as well. So yes, SBN and MFE are working alongside each other in the biodiversity credits discussion. So one of our surveys that went out was co-created with MFE, and MFE used some of that data for their biodiversity credits discussion paper, and we used some of that data to inform our report. We also have a webinar that we are hosting that is just about to be advertised on the 15th of August with MFE, talking around biodiversity credits. So working very closely on that. Anna, is there anything you wanted to add there?
No, just support the points you made, Sam, and really that's one of the benefits of being at the table with the early sort of strategic thinking of programs like this. We know that any kind of markets relies on momentum and users, providers, supply and demand. So the more that we can truth test that and get real insights to help inform the development of a market or consideration of a market, the better. So it's really good timing. Thanks.
Right, and then I might just take a couple more questions. We've got one here from Matt Hollier asking, Sam, you might lead this and then pass over to Anna again, about the pending international reporting standards requiring nature-based reporting and what firms are obliged to report on this. There is a big section on this in the report, Matt. So Sam, if you could just talk to that.
Steph, you stole my answer. Yeah, section 3 in the report highlights some of the frameworks, policies, regulations that are here or coming in the business nature sphere. I'm going to pass over to Anna, who may have a bit more information on obligation, although I don't know if she will or not at this stage.
Apologies. Keeping a watching eye on the development of the various frameworks. So the task force for TNFD, nature financial disclosures, is I think the one that you might be referring to there. At the moment it's still under development, and I know that a lot of businesses in New Zealand are trialling and collaborating on what that might look like. That's another partnership at the strategic sort of system level that we have with the Aotearoa circle. So I guess calling out, as well as one of the other sort of things that we have our eye on is integrating a lot of making sure that, you know, the SBN program is well integrated with the Aotearoa Circle program, and it's, you know, there's really strong collaboration and intent there. So at the moment, there's no obligation to report, you know, but there's lots of investigation around the scale of that opportunity.
Right, thank you. There's a few questions coming in about being added to lists to be invited to the webinar, and how people can get in touch with us if they're a conservation group. So we'll take some of those and reach back out to you after the webinar. There's just, we'll take one last question here. It's from Kate. This is to you, Sam. It's around the timeframes for launching the initiatives in general, like, so maybe you could just talk us through the next steps of the program. In particular, this question is about investment-ready launching the platform for investment-ready nature projects, but you could talk generally about all the initiatives.
Sure. Kia ora, Kate. Yeah, so we've just gone live, which is so exciting. Been working on this for the past 7 months, really using the data to inform what we're going to push out there to really accelerate capability and action for nature. I'm just about to have a little bit of a break, but then when I come back, we are deep into implementation, which is all around doing a deeper dive into who's working in the space in each of the 7 initiatives and who wants to come on board and work with us in implementing them. The governance group, so the partners, MFE&Z and whoever else comes on board, helps drive the strategic direction of the program. So we will be sitting down and looking at what we're going to push play on first. This is a 5-year program, so it will be staggered throughout. When we know more, we're more than happy to share, you know, what we're going to go live with when.
Kia ora, thank you, Sam. So we'll wrap up the webinar now. Today, we've heard a lot about the transformative role that business can play in regenerating nature, but also what support is needed to help on the ground projects. And in our mind, it's the unprecedented collaboration that's going to be able to really accelerate and scale up action for nature. So we encourage you to download the report. As mentioned, we'll send out an email afterwards with a link for you to be able to download it. And if you're interested in partnering in this work at any level, and helping to implement these initiatives, then please reach out to Sam or myself. Once again, we'd like to thank you all for coming today, and we will just finish up with a karakia. Me karakia tātou, unahia, unahia, unahia ki te uru tapanui, kia waitea, kia mama, te nākau, te tinana, te wairua, ki te ara tangata, ko ia rā I rongo, whakairahia ake ki runga, kia tina, tina, hui e, tai ki e. Thank you, everybody.